The best way to get any app up and running is the classic Hello World example. In this lecture, we'll see how to bootstrap our first Angular application. Alright, so I think the best way to get a sense for how Angular works is to make a little Hello World application. Alright, and so let's start by creating some structure for our HTML. So over here within index.html, I am going to type out the quick command that I've got set up in Sublime that outputs some boilerplate HTML. If you don't have this, you can just type this all out manually, or you can look for a package that will do it for you. So as the title, let's put in ng classifieds. And then we're going to want to bring in some of the scripts that we've got from our node modules. So just to take a look over here quickly in node modules will show us that within the Angular directory, we've got a number of things. What we want right now is this angular.js file. So over here we can make a new script tag, and this is going to be pointing to node modules and then Angular and angular.js. And then in just a second, we're going to create a new JavaScript file called app.js, and that's going to live over here within the scripts directory. So let's come down and we are going to make a reference to it right now, even though it's not there yet. So we'll say scripts/app.js. Alright, so I'll save that, and so we can either go to the command line and touch a new file called app.js like we did in the last video, but just for the sake of time, let's come over here and we'll just right click and say new file, and let's save this one as app.js. Okay, so any Angular app needs at least one module to work, and the way that we define a module within Angular is with angular.module. And then we say we want to call it ng classifieds. This first argument is the name of the module. The second argument is going to be an array, and right now we're just going to keep it as an empty array. And so what's happening here is this array is where we place reference to any other modules that our current module depends on. And right now we don't have any. There's no other modules that we need for our application, so we just keep it empty. So let's save that. And this is essentially all we need for the JavaScript side to say that we have an Angular application. Now to test out that this is working, let's come over here to our index.html file. And the first thing we need to do is bootstrap the application somewhere within our HTML document. And bootstrapping can just be thought of as the way that the application gets itself going. And the way that we do this is we use a directive called ng-app. So we say ng-app equals ng classifieds, and this ng classifieds name is the name of our module, which we just defined over here. And the convention here is that ng-app, the application itself, is going to apply to anything between the tag on which it's placed and wherever that tag is closed. Right now we're saying that we want our application to exist anywhere within the body tag. And we could do this another way if we had, say, a body tag and then a bunch of other markup, and then we had a div. We could place that ng-app right here within this div, and then anything that exists within these div tags would be visible to the application. But we want the whole page to be visible, so we'll leave it on the body tag. Alright, so let's do something now to prove that Angular is actually working. I mean, we could just come in here and maybe create an h1 tag and then put some text within it, but we would see that text if Angular was working or not. The way that we can tell is we can template out a message. And so we'll get more into how this works later on, but essentially what we want to do is we want to try to have the program put a hello world message out where this message placeholder is. And the way this works is anything between these curly braces will be interpolated, and a value that we assign to this message variable will be output to the screen. And so typically we would assign a value to this message variable somewhere else in a JavaScript file, but we can do it right here just to quickly see how it can work. To do that, we can use another directive called ng-init, which says anything within these quotation marks I want to run when the application is initialized. And so to do this, let's say message is equal to, and then we'll put our single quotes, and we'll say hello world. And so what we've got here is that we have our variable message, which is what we're referencing right here, is assigned to the string hello world. So let's save that. And the next thing we have to do before viewing this in the browser is we've got to get our server running. So let's go over here to our terminal, and right within the ng classifies folder where we're at, let's run http server. And so what we get back is that the server has started at localhost port 8080, and the zeros for the IP address here just refer to localhost. Okay, so let's hop over to the browser. I'll go over here to Chrome, and if we go to localhost 8080, what we see is hello world. And just to prove that this would break if we didn't have things set up exactly like we do, let's go back over here to Sublime, and I can maybe just put an S at the end to break this. And if we refresh, we see we've got nothing showing up. And if we want to, we can change the message over here. If we put 3 exclamation points and come back over, we see that it works just fine. Okay, so we've got our development environment set up. We've got Angular installed and all the pieces that we need to make the application work. In the next section, we'll get started on the actual application, and we'll start to look at some of the particulars of Angular. We're going to learn about concepts like controllers and scope and dependency injection, and we'll really dig into how those work.